Portraits for No One. Cobwebs. Ilarito once helped me carry the heavy boxes up to the attic above my studio. I had decided to remain in hometown longer than I first intended, and thought I might turn the space into a small room for sleeping, away from the market's smell. After an afternoon of shifting dust and splintered wood, I invited him for a drink. Not at Maribel's, which was far beyond my means in those days, but to El Anís, the cafe on the corner, where the windows were always open, and the air held the faint scent of its namesake liquor. The wicker chairs sagged just enough to feel familiar, and the chipped marble tables stayed cool to the touch, even on the hottest days. In the quiet hours, it was the sort of place where you might overhear a whole life story by accident, or watch the shadows from the street creep slowly across the room. We ordered quince cider, my discovery upon arriving in hometown, and my drink of choice in those first months. Sharp, sweet, and faintly floral, as though summer itself had been pressed into a glass. Ilarito could only stay for one. A few of his friends joined us. The apothecary, immaculate as ever in his white shoes, and two other men whose names slipped from my mind the moment they were spoken. The apothecary's shoes caught my eye with every step, so spotless they seemed ceremonial, as though they had never known dust, though I would later see them in places no white leather should survive. Ilarito excused himself soon after. It was Friday, and he never missed the dances with his cousin, Inés Caraballo. They were exquisite together, the kind of dancers who could make you forget the hour, whose steps seemed to pull time backwards or send it rushing ahead without warning. But Inés carried another passion, one she shared with no one. It was not shameful or dangerous, only delicate, like a dream you hesitate to speak aloud in case it thins to nothing. She indulged it rarely, as though it were a finite supply she must ration. That Friday, the desire to stay home came upon her suddenly, like a fever. She sent no word to Ilarito. He waited in their usual corner, shoes tapping against the cobblestones, until the music began without her. When he finally walked to her house, it was dark, the shutters closed, the silence so dense it seemed borrowed from another century. The next morning she told him she had suffered a terrible headache. It was an innocent lie, but it clung to her like a fine cobweb across her hair. Ilarito accepted it graciously, so she added another, that she had gone to the apothecary for a remedy. Another cobweb, another tightening thread. Soon she could not stop herself. The errand had led to an encounter in the street, the encounter to an unexpected delay, the delay to a walk beneath the moon. Each invention pressed her lower, until her head and shoulders felt unbearably heavy. She kept her cheek against the floor for relief, and Ilarito, ever courteous, unwilling to speak down to her, lowered himself too. They spent the whole afternoon like that, talking in low voices across the tiles. For the next several days, Inés remained inside, watching passers-by through the narrow strip of light beneath the door. In this way she became acquainted with the feet of hometown. She saw the extravagant red shoes of Don Arsenio, the cracked heels of farmers returning from the fields, and the polished boots of men who had never known soil. She learned the shapes of feet, pointed, heart-shaped, square, round, large and small, and imagined the lives they carried, the journeys they had taken, the histories that clung to their souls. Among all these, she noticed a pair of immaculate white shoes that appeared at the same hour each afternoon. They passed the first day without pause, the second with the faintest hesitation, the third lingering just long enough to be noticed. On the fourth day, they slowed almost to a stop. On the fifth, they traced slow circles in the dust. And on the sixth, they halted entirely. That was the day a knock came at her door. When Inés opened it a crack, the white shoes were there, and above them, much to her surprise, stood the apothecary. "Did the remedy work?" he asked with a smile, and she could not say whether it was mischievous or merely polite. She could not tell if there was irony in his voice or only concern, but she was grateful, for he had lifted her burden like a true gentleman, exactly when she needed it most. "I have brought you another in case it didn't." He produced a small flask that gleamed in the evening sun. As he did, a faint scent drifted towards her, not of medicine, but of something warmer and rarer, like the memory of a cake cooling on a distant table. Before she could place it, he had already turned to leave, his white shoes carrying him back into the glow of the street. "I think I saw him pass Elanis through my window later that night, but perhaps it was only his shadow."